to introduce the two speakers in this morning's panel. I think at least you will all admit that the co-sponsors of this occasion today have a sense of timing which is perhaps better than that of Lord Davis when he built this wonderful building in 1938, at a moment when, unfortunately, a lot of very bad things were going to happen and peace and health were not amongst them. But that was not his fault. Anyway, the background, which I'd just like to mention briefly, on the multilateral regime enshrined in the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. The most important thing, I think, to grasp from the outset is that this treaty has been a remarkable success story. When it was set up in 1968, there was a confident prediction by all the pundits, academia, intelligence analysts and others, that by now we would have 25 or 30 nuclear weapon states. Well, we don't. 40 years afterwards, we have 8 or 9, depending how precisely you score North Korea, which has, of course, carried out an underground test, but about whose capacity to actually deploy weapons there is still some doubt. Moreover, the International Atomic Energy Agency's safeguards regime, and I'm delighted to see Dr. Rao here with us today, his contribution will be really important later on in the day, has also been a remarkable success, despite it having a certain number of detractors, most of them on the far side of the Atlantic rather than this side of it. But this was the organisation that did find out that something odd was going on in the North Korean nuclear program and did blow the whistle on that. They also did police the weapons nuclearization of South Africa, which by that time had made very rapid progress towards weapons status. And they also played an essential role in carrying out the commitments that Libya entered into. So there has been rollback as well. But the non-proliferation regime is an imperfect one. It has been imperfect from the very outset. And one has to take account of those imperfections. Obviously, it was discriminatory in the sense that it permitted 5 countries to have nuclear weapons while persuading all the other signatories to forswear them. That was an imbalance which causes tension still, perhaps more than even than in the past. Also, there are the 3 non-signatories who have become countries with nuclear weapons, India, Pakistan, and Israel. And that causes plenty of tensions too. And then the original safeguards regime, which the International Atomic Energy Agency applied, proved to be quite inadequate to deal with people who were determined to cheat, in which category came, of course, South Africa and Iraq, which managed to develop an enormously big program before it was destroyed in the Gulf War in 1991. So the original state of UN safeguards was not by any means perfect, nor, it is now perceived, was the fact that the enrichment and reprocessing part of the fuel cycle is legitimized by the Non-Proliferation Treaty for all signatories of that, but it is now better understood than it was in the 1960s that this is a shortcut to getting weapons-grade fissile materials. So that is causing a lot of rethinking. Those imperfections are there. The regime itself, let's face it, is under very great stress at the moment. It's under stress from the cases of North Korea and Iran, but it's also under stress because the nuclear weapon states, the 5 legitimate nuclear weapon states, are not in all cases fulfilling the commitments that they entered into to work their way towards nuclear disarmament. And the 3 non-signatory states who have not broken any international obligations but have never assumed them, that's India, Pakistan, and Israel, are quite determined not only to hang on to their assets, their nuclear weapons assets, but to increase them. So there are, as of now, several countries which are increasing their warheads, and that includes at least one of the 5 permanent members, interestingly not the United States, but China. And so, taken together with the fact that last year 2 big international conferences, one of which was the 5-year review conference of the Non-Proliferation Treaty itself, and the other was the UN Summit in September 2005, that both these conferences failed completely to agree on anything at all, and were not able to agree on the 20 or so proposals that the panel, the high-level panel on threats, challenges and change that the Secretary General had put before them, was a very ominous sign indeed. Now, I'll now turn the floor over first to Sir Michael Quinlan, who will talk to us about the obligations of the nuclear weapon states, with particular reference also to Britain's Trident decision, which is imminent in the next few months, and on which the white paper will be published on Monday. And then Professor Fred Barnaby, who will talk to us about the challenges represented by the possible, or one could say probable, expansion of civil nuclear energy in the years ahead. And then when we've had those 2 speakers, we will have a session of contributions, discussion from the floor on the subject matter covered by both of them. So, that is all I would say now, and I will now give the floor to Michael Quinlan.